What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Mac and Reed Show right here on Second City Gridiron at Second City Gridiron for all your Bears news as we are in training camp. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You get the audio-only versions, of course. Like, subscribe, tell a friend or two, Spotify, iTunes, all those great places to get your media. Look at the great articles, read the great articles that our cohorts write at Windy City Gridiron, at WC Gridiron on social media. I'm Evan Mack at The Real Evan Mack on social media, as always, joined by my co-host, Happy Gilmore 2, now his favorite movie of summer 2025. His Colston Loveland jersey is in the mail. He's got all the Riz, as the kids say. He is at Ross Reed on social media. My man, it's Ross Reed.
What's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Almost August. Give me back another month of summer here. I wouldn't buy it.
The movie snob in me just refuses to press play on Happy Gilmore 2. I can't do it. So I refuse.
Oh, come on. It's you subscribe to Netflix. It doesn't cost. It's already included in it. So
yes,
I feel like just quickly on that, the whole show is dedicated to Happy Gilmore 2, folks. Quickly on that, if you liked Happy Gilmore 1 and appreciate the nostalgia, and you know that Adam Sandler, just had a Brinks truck backed up and wanted to finally make this movie largely in his way and had some SNL writing help, you will enjoy a lot of it. 90% is pretty trash. It's just ridiculous cameo after cameo and ridiculous storyline. But I genuinely laughed at a lot of the references and humor in it. So, give it a try. Pop an edible, Ross, and have yourself a Friday evening.
I'm glad there's a certain clientele enjoying it out there. Godspeed to them. And I say this as every person who has clicked play on like every of the train wreck series that has been on Netflix and Who Took Amy Bradley or whatever they have on there. But yeah,
you need a break from adolescence for Happy Gilmore too,
adolescence is rough.
That's Netflix comes with the drama, right? But that's neither here nor there. We're talking largely Bears on this show today. We will talk perhaps some music and pop culture and movies at the end as the summer rolls on. As we said, blockbusters here and there, Fantastic Four bounds and all that. But training camp underway. There's positional battles to look at. Talk about Caleb Williams' growth and getting the kinks out. The Ben Johnson playbook and how the offense is starting to look. So, it kicked off last week and, on the note of the offense and Ben Johnson, it's Ben Johnson's team. Obviously, Caleb Williams running that huddle and all, but Ben Johnson, right? I love seeing in the first day of camp, they didn't line up right. He said, get off the effing field, basically. And you're showing accountability. The same thing with kind of like Luther Burden. He's already coming from behind. He's going to be on a learning curve different from the other vets in there. And it's just going to be an uphill battle for the young man to solidify that number 3 wide receiver spot for him. But in terms of, reactions to, we're a week into training camp, we'll say, in terms of reaction to the offense and just the culture surrounding the team, you look at the other side of the football too, and Dennis Allen running that defense and these players are doing up downs the first day too. Like it's, July in high school again. So I respect that. And, seeing these guys who probably haven't done up downs in so long, it's a different level and a different culture again than what you saw last year with Eberflus and company. When it's a new, slate is wiped clean. And now Ben Johnson, the flavor of the month, so to speak, with the offense, it's tied, I'll speak to that, or we can speak to that right away, Ross. What you've heard with Ben Johnson, and then, we could pivot over to Caleb Williams and what we've seen thus far running the offense.
Yeah, I think, when you look at early on in training camp, Ben Johnson is trying to piece together an offense day by day. So every day they add a little bit of a new wrinkle to it. They want to see what works, what's not going to work. You're going to see a lot of stuff get thrown into the offense. You're going to see a lot of stuff get taken out. And him and Declan Coyle and the rest of this offensive staff will kind of look to fine-tune things, usually by, preseason game, week 3, week 4, and then they do their install, obviously, for week 1 against the Vikings. So early on, you're going to see guys in the wrong spots, especially if you see a guy like Luther Burden, who's already a rookie, and he missed a couple weeks of of training camp and even mini camp stuff dealing with that hamstring issue, there are guys going to be on offense that are going to not get this scheme because it's a very tough, intricate scheme right away, and they're going to be the mistakes early on. That's exactly what you kind of want. You want the mistakes early, and you want a head coach and a coaching staff on the offense that can hold them accountable and say, hey, we got to clean up the little things. And also you want that coaching staff to look themselves in the mirror and say, this is probably not something that our quarterback and our offense can handle right now, or they can. We just need to drill it into them more. So I think when people are reporting on what's going on at camp, they don't know what goes on behind the scenes. They don't know, Albert Breer from last week who visited camp had some interesting tidbits in his Monday Morning Quarterback article about how Ben Johnson was purposely having the defense flash, a ton of pressure early on to try and heat up Caleb Williams and try and put him under duress early on, so then that he can see, how Caleb responds and then tweak accordingly. Those are things that fans don't know when they go out there and they sit there, and they see what's going on. And so there's a lot of nuance and minutia to starting this new offense and just training camp in general. We know, defenses are usually ahead of the curve on these things because the scheme is a little bit more vanilla. It's a little bit more basic. You just now put pads on. And so, I think the Bears are where they at right now. I always harken back to, JJ Watt had a tweet last week back on July 4th. I got it up here in front of me where he basically said, training camp stats, and he put stats in quotation marks, are insane and ridiculous. Used to think it was always just people joking, but now seeing them seriously report it, you have no idea what the purpose of that period is, what the goals are, what the context is, etc. It could be strictly third and long blitz period. He goes on and on to basically say, these guys are practicing. We don't know what they're focusing on in practice. We don't know the situation. We should allow them to let them practice and not put them underneath a microscope at training camp like it's week 7, third quarter of a game against a division opponent.
There's not much else to talk about besides that learning curve. And again, talking about the positional battles that we will speak to in a minute, but everything is getting dissected, and, all the love, and for all the journalists that are there and all the folks just showing up to training camp, just oozing with confidence over an offense when, against the ones versus ones, the offensive line is creating a clean pocket for Caleb Williams. Like, this ain't even, what preseason game 1 here. It's week 2 of training camp. So people get real psyched. And then you see the opposite, that you're saying they look like a JV team running this, let's pitch it back to DJ Moore. He throws it to Caleb. Caleb throws downfield like, Ben Johnson's a genius. But we're barely scratched the surface. The things that we've hit on in this first week are all pretty, offensive centered, I would say. Although the defense, if you looked at, at Twitter and you looked at whatever else today, media, the defense seems to, end on a high note. Going, just keeping the offense to about 4 and out, something like that. And then, a big hit on Luther Burden, I believe, from who was it? But, they're setting the tone just as much as the offense is. But Colston Loveland doing Colston Loveland, things that we expected out of your first round pick, which is great to see. Ross taking to Twitter and calling him a superstar already. I like to hear it. I like the confidence. You put barely any mention of Cole Kmet, but they're lining up together. So, creating opportunities for each other that they will lean heavily on. And also his growth in the pass pro and run blocking game will be very crucial for his development. Same with Rome being talked about, a wide receiver 1 when DJ Moore is out there as your gadget guy, like a Deebo Samuel type of guy in his prime. Able to do so many things, that X wide receiver. And then the offensive line, again, we'll talk about that. But Caleb Williams, his growth, people have loved it, from just this week, like I talked about. And Ben Johnson talked in a presser today. He said basically that I probably just see growth. He is so much more comfortable right now. Even yesterday, the walkthrough in terms of moving around, we go from gun to under center to the tight ends are moving. The receivers are moving. We're adding more every day. I told him this on the player day off. His process is really clean right now. I'm talking about how he's preparing. I'm really pleased with it. He's doing the work behind the scenes that no one else is seen. And we're starting to see the dividends being paid from it. We talk about the offseason and how he's adopting Tom Brady's diet, and he's, doing things that a kid his age in his 20s should be doing, going to Paris and living his life of a multimillionaire NFL quarterback. But the focus, we see a lot of times this year too, is a regression for quarterbacks and a lot of young players. Completely opposite from Ben Johnson, and it's very, very early, like we talked about. But from what we've talked about with Caleb Williams and what you've heard from camp, what are your impressions in the first week of training camp here?
Yeah, I mean, my impression is I trust the head coach, and I think so far he deserves the benefit of the doubt to. I think he's telling us the truth right now, and I think he's not sugarcoating things. I think he's a guy that is very comfortable telling the fans and the media exactly what's going on. He knows how to give out some tough love when needed. He knows how to pump his guys up. And what he's saying about Caleb Williams, I believe it. Listen, there was a narrative when Caleb Williams was coming out of school at USC. He maybe wasn't the best teammate, or he was a guy that could be an issue. And there's stuff about wanting equity in the team and forcing himself out of Chicago and stuff like that. And by all and large, Caleb Williams has been a model citizen as an NFL player on and off the field. He's been a good young man. He pops up at random driving ranges for golf out in Skokie and hangs out with fans. He takes photos and does things like that. I'd have no doubt that Caleb Williams is going to get into the room and do the work and do what's asked from him from Ben Johnson and his coaching staff. I think Ben Johnson is the right teacher. I think he is a guy that is going to demand and expect greatness, especially out of his top level players. And I think he's going to push these players and ride them hard until they get to the level that they need to get at. And I think Caleb Williams is the kind of guy that wants to be great. You kind of put it in perspective. He's latched on to Tom Brady, who is the greatest quarterback of all time. And he's even spent time with Peyton Manning. And I think Caleb Williams has been bracing for this moment since he's been a young man, where he just wants to be a great quarterback. And I think he's going to put the work in physically. He looks already bigger and stronger. He looks healthy. He looks fantastic. And also between the ears mentally, and he's going to get there. And it's going to take time. You look at a guy like Patrick Mahomes, who got to sit for most of a full year before he was asked to operate Andy Reid's offense, right? And you started looking at Lamar Jackson, and it took some time for him to get into Monken's offense. We look at Josh Allen, and it takes these quarterbacks, even the great ones, a little bit of time to get comfortable in these extremely intricate offenses. So, I want to have a lot of cautious optimism towards Caleb, because I think he's going to have a very good year. And I think he's going to break a few franchise records. Not that the bar is set very high for the Chicago Bears quarterback, but I think you're going to see him break records, in touchdowns and in yards this season. And I think, going into like even year 3, year 4, he's really going to ascend to an upper echelon level quarterback. We also have to remember, he's now a second-year player already on his second offense and second coaching staff. And I don't say that as an excuse towards him, but I do say these things take more than just 2 weeks in the training camp. I can't wait to see how he looks in the limited reps that he's going to get in the preseason. I'm pretty sure Ben is going to get him 3 opportunities, 3 games to get him out there and get comfortable in this offense with the consistent offensive line in front of him. He's got a lot of weapons to work with. And then, we're approaching week 1 much sooner than later. Like you said, August starts on this Friday. And from there, we're about 6 weeks out until the Vikings come to town. And which is a pretty feisty defense, of course, led by Brian Flores. But it's a defense that Caleb has obviously seen before. Had some success last year in a pretty shoddy offense run by Shane Waldron. And then Ben Johnson has obviously seen him from being offensive coordinator with Detroit. and has had some pretty good success against them as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt to me that it is, speaking to Caleb's development and learning curve. There's no doubt to me that it's a detriment that he is now, on his second head coach, right? You just look at Justin Fields and the way that his development, just most recently for the Bears fans, at least, how his progression just was stopped with this change of coaching and leadership for the Bears organization. Wishing him well with his toe injury in New York, of course. But with Caleb Williams, it is, for me, number one, just and what Ben Johnson is focusing on in the rest of this offense is limiting those mistakes. Obviously, the turnovers were a big issue last year, up in that completion percentage, and then just building that confidence and playing at the NFL speed, right? And not, running out of the pocket when he doesn't need to, or extending the play when he doesn't need to. That all will get, refined as these weeks go on. And, before the preseason games where he's going to play limited action and before the Vikings in week 1, it's more so just learning that playbook, which is completely different from the playbook of last year, and building that already pretty strong relationship that he had with DJ Moore and with Rome Odunze and with Cole Kmet. And now adding to that, Colston Loveland and Luther Burden, hopefully, who again was held out because he's been out of camp because he was limited, or he just was injured, and now he's in this position where he's going to start from behind. Hopefully figured it out, right when we signed off a couple of weeks ago. All these rookies signed their contracts, which is great. Now they can go into camp and focus on their work. But to me, I'm not worried. This second year is not make or break. It is a developmental year. You talk about the advantage, kind of, as opposed to like a Mahomes and these other guys we talk about, is playing that full season and just, again, like, knock on wood, just avoiding any sort of injury setback or anything like that. But he will get those serious reps in a tough NFC North and in a tough NFL schedule. But it's just going to come with time. And I think it's really trending in the right direction. I think that relationship with Ben Johnson is obviously so crucial. And now that they're tied together, it's the start of hopefully something really great for the Bears. And talking about record breaking and all of that, potentially breaking 4,000 yards passing and many more records.
Absolutely. And, big thing is it's going to be a lot of trust, and it's going to be a lot of trust. And it sounds corny, it sounds cliche, but, specifically on offense, the quarterback's going to have trust in the play caller, and the play caller is going to have trust in the quarterback. And the quarterback that got his butt kicked last year and almost set a rookie record for sacks also has to have trust in the new offensive line that's in front of him, that they're going to be able to hold up and have the protection. And he doesn't have to bail out of the pocket and go, Superman YOLO ball and try and do something crazy. So, one thing that I took away that he said within the last couple of days was, he was like, it's being drilled into me and being taught to also, take the open man. And I think, if you were to criticize Caleb, even in college, he does like to kind of run around and do his little spin moves and kind of like hold on to the football and dangle it out there and try and, look for the home run. And a lot of times the solid single up the middle or the double to the right side will just keep the chains moving and keep the drive going. So we don't need drive killers. That's a big thing. And in the NFL, the defenses are faster, they're stronger, they're more alert, they're more aware, and you can't, pull those things off. So it's going to be some ups and downs. I think there's going to be more ups, more downs. Again, going back to trust, he's got a plethora of weapons around him now, right? So he has to be able to allow those guys to do their jobs, allow them to get open, and just, I don't want to say play point guard, maybe play offensive point guard, maybe be more of like a Steve Nash kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
Where, we still want him to make the big plays. Trust me, to win in this league and win a Super Bowl, you still need to get the football down the field. And his deep ball percentage last year was not good. He was a much better deep ball passer in college. So I definitely want him to improve on that. It's going to help with a better route tree for a guy like Rome Odunze, who's your big target, and a guy like Luther Burden, who can get downfield. And, oh, by the way, your brand new 10th overall tight end is a 6'6", 240-pound gazelle who's just – and we've seen already in camp that one of the huge bright spots. This guy just takes up massive space and is a matchup nightmare. That's why I think he's going to be a star. Is I really think Caleb Williams is going to really find him early and often, especially down the middle of the field, because I don't know. There's not going to be too many linebackers in the league or safeties for that matter. They're going to keep up with Colston Loveland.
Yeah, no question. And with regards to his protection, it's going to be so important. And the offensive line was overhauled, and looking good right now. But that's still at left tackle position. Ozzie Trapillo getting reps, Braxton Jones sort of that clear number one, but Kieran Omega also getting reps there. So it's not solidified, so to speak. I think Braxton Jones still getting challenged. And that is a tad concerning, but also it's Braxton Jones' spot to lose. And I think challenging him, I've been on the record on this show saying that he needs to be challenged to not get complacent, I feel like, and have that guy right behind him. And it's just good for those younger guys and Kieran and Ozzie. But, to you, Ross, with Braxton Jones, there any concern at left tackle, or just still too early to tell?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a concern, right? I think the biggest thing for Braxton is, it's always his health. The health is always going to be a factor. I think he's always going to be an adequate at best left tackle. He's always going to be probably the 15th to 20th best left tackle in the league. I think scheme is going to help him out a lot more this season. I also think having a future Hall of Famer directly next to him and Joe Thuney is also going to help out as well. I think the Bears, by and large, this is not just a Braxton Jones issue. It's been an offensive line issue for years, basically since Olin Kreutz retired. They have never had a solid, established center that helps the quarterback call out the plays, helps the offensive line move and slide the protections. Now you get a guy like Drew Dalman on there who's a pro, a true veteran, and a much adequate. He's beyond adequate. He's an upgrade over what they've had at that position in a very, very long time. That helps everybody across the board. I think Braxton Jones for me is not Mr. Right. He's just Mr. Right now. He's the guy that's going to be the placeholder until Ozzie gets it together. I am very reluctant to put a rookie right tackle as your starting left tackle week one, specifically against that Vikings defense. I wanted him to ease in. I think he needs probably a little more time to work on the position, work on the footwork. He's going to need some reps. He's going to be your perfect swing guy to start his career. But I do think eventually, as early as next season, he's going to be your starting left tackle, because we've seen also the market dictates right now, even the average to maybe below average left tackles are getting like $25 million a year. I don't see Ryan Poles giving that to Braxton Jones at the end of this season, given his performance and also given his injury history as well. So I do think Ozzie eventually slides in there, but let's give it some time. Let's let Braxton, unless something catastrophic happens, he just gets his butt kicked in preseason and can't consistently. I think Braxton will be your starting left tackle week one. I think he should hold on to it for as long as he can, and that way you can ease Ozzie Trapillo into that spot eventually.
Ozzie Trapillo, was comped as at least one reporter I saw comping him to, Kyle Long. Certainly huge. You talk about Colston Loveland's size. He's a big body guy. And you talk about the going rate for left tackles now at this point. Like, look at Bernard Raymond from Indianapolis Colts, who got that same $25 million 4-year deal that we talked about. And Nick Grimes posted in on YouTube, said it sounds like it's leaning towards Ozzie at this point in training. I mean, I wouldn't be mad at it if he beats him out. That shows that grit that he has, and it shows he's learning Ben Johnson's offense right away and challenging Braxton Jones. I think there's definitely a possibility. Still a little too early to tell. Dante on YouTube said, in what ways do you envision Ben Johnson tailoring to Caleb's skill set, or is it all his way or the highway? It's kind of to Ross's point. It's so different from when Caleb was at USC, right? Where you're able to get away with that in college. You're able to just scramble for days against, North Central California Tech and other teams that aren't quite up to your, and obviously played in tough competition. I'm not jilting the competition they played against in college. But it was just sort of easier for him to put up stats like that. Whereas the NFL, you can't be extending the play like that necessarily. And then with Ben Johnson coming from Detroit, and no disrespect to Jared Goff, but he ain't Caleb Williams as far as the athlete that Caleb Williams is. So you figure you give him the edge at least there. I mean, Jared Goff is a statue. We saw some trickery, but you're not exactly seeing him run goes. Not that you want your quarterback to at that point, but the short answer is I see a mix of it. With you want to build his pocket presence up. You want him to be able to get rid of that ball quickly. To improve on that aspect of his game and just make that quick decision to next play and not extend it and lose yards necessarily or make a big mistake. But I think you really want to implement his athleticism into the offense as well and take that advantage.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They are very, very different guys from Jared Goff to Caleb Williams in terms of athleticism. In fact, the Lions ran the most play action in the league last year, largely because Jared Goff is such a statue there that they had to use the fake of the running game to keep defenses off balance for the passing game, right? So what I think you're going to see, and I still think you're going to see a lot of play action for Caleb Williams, is going to help him. It's going to help the offense in general. But I think you're going to see a lot more action out on the edge for him and allow him to make plays to receivers out in space. That's the whole point. You want to get the football to your receivers quickly as you can out in space and allow them to do the work. And I think, where you're also going to see a big difference is, Ben Johnson, Jared Goff is a good quarterback, but he has limitations in terms of his skill set. And then also, once you're in a play, you typically keep Jared Goff in that play because you don't have a lot of flexibility to do a lot of other things with him. I think with this situation, you're going to see a lot of times where Caleb might line up in shotgun, assess the situation, look at what the defense is offering him, and has the opportunity to move guys around, go back under center even from the shotgun position and kind of, change the play and keep the defenses off balance. I think that's where you're going to see a little bit. But certainly Caleb's arm strength, Caleb's athleticism, those are things that you want to lean on as you move forward with this offense as well. And I think you want to get him more into a rhythm, especially early in these games. That's why that 70% completion percentage has been such a hot button topic at the camp, and people are now charting passes in training camp. That's ridiculous. The whole point is, though, get him in a groove early on, get him some high accuracy plays, get him some layups, so to speak. And then as he warms up and the game goes along, allow him to take some deep shots down the field and really stretch a defense. To talk about, to Nick's point too with Ozzie, it's just way too early. We haven't even seen a preseason game yet. Our good buddy Gabe Gabriel, Greg. Gabriel,
there it is. It's a tough one. Greg Gabriel.
Greg Gabriel.
Greg.
He's been doing this for a long time and been working in front offices for a long time. And he would always say how guys are lined up right now and unofficial depth charts are wildly useless at this point. And so, you don't know who's going to be your starting here or this, especially with that situation, until closer to, a few games underneath your belt in the preseason. I'll say it'll be a telltale sign when this offense lines up for their first preseason game, who your starting left tackle will be. You've got a pretty strong bet. It's going to be Braxton Jones for now, barring something, again, catastrophic. But Oz is going to get a lot of opportunity to go out there and showcase his talent and prove it. But I think for now, Braxton, especially being the veteran on this team, is going to get the benefit of the doubt until he proves otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. And positional battles, we love a good a punt returner battle.
Yeah.
Evan Duvernay and Josh Blackwell. And, you may throw in, as I mentioned on another show, Luther Burden is a dark horse there in special teams. What didn't we cover? As far as defense, Ross, we've talked, ad nauseum about the offense, but
Yeah.
It's a new look defense. Montez Sweat saying, get your bleeps off the field after making them go 4 and out. And we're seeing them, forcing Caleb into making mistakes and rushing him and doing, sacking him as far as being whistled down in some team drills. But what are you seeing from the defense?
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing some fire. You're seeing some competitiveness. I think that's a lot of Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen and Matt Eberflus, they are two completely different coaches. Dennis Allen is a fiery dude. He's a guy with a lot of pride. And I think, he's a former head coach in this league. He's also been a very successful defensive coordinator. But I think, he comes to this situation and he knows he's hearing and feeling a lot of the Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams love, and the offense needs to carry the Bears. And this guy's like, listen, we are not chumps either on this side of the football. I've been doing this for a long time, and we've got some talent on this side, and we're going to show it. And I think there's a little bit more fire and feistiness on that side of the ball so far that we just didn't see under Matt Eberflus. Matt Eberflus was pretty corny. He was the one that gave out all the nicknames and stuff, but he never really showed that kind of fire and intensity that I think you're going to get from Dennis Allen. That wears off on guys like Montez Sweat. I think Montez Sweat, by and large, had a down year last year. He was banged up from time to time, but I think there are moments where, his intensity level just wasn't quite where it should be at, especially to the level it was at where he got traded to Chicago. And I think he's going to bring that back up this year. And I think it also helps having guys like Grady Jarrett out there. Grady Jarrett is another fiery guy coming in from Atlanta, and he's going to bring a lot of heat to the situation as well. So that's really cool to see. A couple of things for me from the defensive side of the ball. It kind of sucks that Shamar Turner, their rookie defensive end / defensive tackle, is probably going to be out for a few more weeks dealing with that ankle issue. He's a second round pick. You want to see him out there and start practicing sooner or later. You start thinking about the point they were like, he might start the season on the PUP list with a designation to return. And how does that affect his rookie season? How many reps is he going to get out there over your Billings and your Austin Bookers and some other guys out there as well. And then the same thing for Zah Frazier, right? I think Zah Frazier just now got back out there in practice, which is good. But he's another guy that we want to see get some more reps underneath his belt. He started camp as well, a little bit banged up. Otherwise, there's been some rumors. Kyler Gordon's been playing a little safety, so I think they're going to move him around a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see. He just got some fresh money. He's one of the better cornerbacks in the league, but also he's a hell of a tackler. And so if you can kind of maybe play him at some spots in safety as well, especially with Jaquan Brisker's injury history, that's going to help out. They've got some deep. They're pretty deep at the cornerback position, in my opinion. So they've got some bodies out there, not defensive related, but the other piece on special teams. Could Jonathan Kim push Cairo Santos? That's the thing.
You got a kicker battle.
Yeah, I mean he hit 55 yarder today, and they said it would have been good from 60 plus. From our good buddy. I was following Aldo from the bar room, some of his tweets as well. So again, Cairo Santos, he's been reliable, but he's reliable typically from 45 in. He doesn't have a big leg. We do live in Chicago where it gets cold, it gets snowy, and Jonathan Kim is a Big Ten guy. He's got a big leg. Let's see. I still think Cairo Santos is your kicker week one, but we've seen crazier things than a rookie kicker beat out an old grizzled veteran. So I'll be interested to see how he also performs in the rest of training camp and preseason as well.
Cairo Santos beat the Packers last year. Come on,
Yeah.
I don't know how you.
How many tip kicks did he have though too? Right, because he couldn't get the ball up in the air.
Very true. Well, as you said, distance it was hard for him to come by, but inside of 50, just automatic. But it's important to have those, such a weapon in this day and age to be able to kick like a 60-yarder. Maybe Jonathan Kim will push him. We'll see. You talked about Jaquan Brisker too, and it's nuts that he's had 3 concussions in 3 years. You hope that he can just continue to stay healthy. But one of the things I saw is he's not wearing the Guardian cap. He has a new helmet called the Axiom. That should just be his other nickname at this point, Axiom. The versatility of Kyler Gordon, that's cool. Dennis Allen was also talking about him and said, if I need to be able to switch to outside free safety, strong safety, having that ability is really fun for me. I just think it's finding my next step in my level of my own game to be able to do anything and everything. That's, of course, Gordon talking about Allen's defense. Exciting things happening as they're popping pads at training camp. That's all I got for the Bears, Ross.
Same, absolutely. So I'm happy that football is back. It's kind of like that. It's that worst time of the year, in my opinion, where not worst time, but you're happy that they're back. But at the same time, we are in over-analyzed season, trying to break down every small training camp video from Caleb Williams is him on X.com or something like that, and people don't know the down and the distance and the situations. Let's get this thing into preseason games. Let's get everybody healthy, which is the most important thing of training camp.
Absolutely.
And let's start to see what this football team really looks like objectively. And then we're getting close. We're getting close to week 1. I don't want to get summer out the way yet. I'm still enjoying my summer, but you can smell football around the corner. It's starting to get really exciting.
Absolutely. And RIP on the Chicago tip to Ryan Sandberg,
Yes.
Cubs Hall of Famer. Very sad he, at 65, gone too soon, but baseball Hall of Famer. And you always heard about Rhino, being a great guy prior to his passing. And this is just even more outpouring at this point. Mike Greenberg had a great bit, and Barry Rosner and a bunch of journalists that I love were talking about him. As Stuart Scott said, you defeat cancer by how you live, why you live, and in the manner in which you live. And Sandberg did just that. And of course, a superb talent at second base with the Cubs back in the day. You only wish you could see that the Cubs doing their thing, doing quite well right now on the north side. But RIP to Rhino.
RIP to Rhino. I mean, as you know, I'm a huge White Sox fan, but I grew up, I'm 43 years old. I'll be 44 years old. I grew up right in the sweet spot of Ryan Sandberg's, Hall of Fame career. And, as a kid, really the only games that you can get were the WGN games. I didn't have cable growing up. And so I saw a lot of Cub games. I saw a lot of Sandberg games. And he was an awesome player, third baseman, turned second baseman, very clutch hitter. But most importantly, he was just the nicest guy. And I don't think anybody would have a bad thing to say about Ryan Sandberg. And when I was a kid, the athletes that ran this town, it was Michael Jordan, it was Frank Thomas, it was guys like Chris Chelios and Jeremy Roenick, and then it was Ryan Sandberg. And so that was just like kind of the glory days of Chicago sports. So he would definitely be missed. This is the one time where I root for the Cubs and go win one for him and put that 23 patch on for the rest of the season and go make him proud. So I hope for the rest of the year all the fans that visit Wrigley Field really kind of soak it in and take it in and honor who he was as a man, as a player for the rest of this year and going forward.
Yeah, for sure. And tight race. His baseball is in the second half of their season here, and it's looking like a tight race between them and the Brewers for maybe coming out in the NL come the playoffs. Who gets that first seed? So that'll be interesting to watch. Have you been bumping Crazy Train since Ozzy passed as well?
That's another one. I mean, we had a week last week, right? We went from Malcolm Jamal Warner, another childhood legend of mine, who didn't grow up my age watching the Cosby Show, to Ozzy Osbourne. I was a big fan of the music. Obviously, though, the reality show was something that I knew more Ozzy for at that age.
Original reality shows, man. The Osbournes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So RIP to him. Man, that early Black Sabbath music is absolutely incredible. It still sounds amazing. I think it's one of the bands that you want to listen to more so on vinyl if you can get a hand on it, especially some of their live performances are just electric stuff. He was an electric entertainer, and his personality, good, bad, whatever, fueled that music and fueled that band. And he is a legend. RIP to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Paranoid, and I should say, actually, Paranoid, one of the first albums I just fell in love with, No Skips from Black Sabbath. And the first album I bought, that was, oh man, I'm going to forget the name of the record store. But anyways, it was in Lincoln Park. Back when we had record stores, back when we had records and
Tower Records?
No, it was a real small one. And I'm sure with my, older brain, it will come to me as we're signing off or something. Yeah. It was a funky name. But anyways, it was like a double album from Black Sabbath that I bought in CD format. I was like, oh man, what is this? And just Ozzy as a front man, very unique voice and just such a talent. And it was good fitting that he, signed off 3 weeks prior to his death and had that great concert in London as well. And Malcolm Jamal Warner, like, you don't mess with the ocean, man. That's tough.
Yes.
If you ever get caught in a riptide, my friends who are lifeguards told me you got to swim parallel to the shore. Just let it take you, then swim parallel. and then
That's right.
for all the people who will get
That's
caught in a
right.
rip in the near future
That's
and
right.
their
And
vacations in Florida or wherever.
yep, absolutely. And listen, we have to mention, Hulk Hogan passed away as well. He's somebody that obviously has had a very troubled past, especially within the last 15 years. But again, when I grew up, Hulk Hogan was must see TV in my house, and 33
Icon.
million people watched WrestleMania 1 and watched him body slam, Andre the Giant, and he's a guy that we're gonna have to come to grips with some troubled people in our lives, the Kanye Wests of the world, and I don't know, Mel Gibsons and stuff like that, where Hulk Hogan was a character that I saw on TV and I saw in movies, and he had cereals and he had memorabilia and things like that, and you can remember that side of it and love that side of it and cherish it, especially as somebody that grew up on that stuff, and still condemn the person,
Yeah.
Terry, I forget his last name, and what he did as well outside of that Hulk Hogan persona.
Yeah, you got to sometimes separate that artist from the art, so to speak. And yeah, when he was a character, that and what my favorite Hogan like moment recently was when that kid is going up to him and to get an autograph, and he is Hulk and just yelling at Hulk Hogan like Hulk Hogan. It's hilarious. Look it up on YouTube.
Absolutely.
But yeah, an icon of wrestling. I mean, wrestling would not be the same without him. Just a giant.
He's the Michael Jordan of wrestling. Like he's
Yeah.
if The Rock is LeBron James, Hulk Hogan, there is no WWF to WWE to WCW to so on and so forth without what Hulk Hogan did in his contribution to that sport.
For sure. My movie tour of the summer continues with my AMC movie pass. I'm seeing all the good and the bad. I saw Superman.
Oh yeah,
F1, very
yeah,
good. I
yep.
don't know much about F1, but learned, I suppose, about
They
it.
they dumbed it down for the fan base that knows nothing about F1. So kudos
Yeah.
to them for that.
Well, just insane. And you could be a fan of the speed at which they operate to, and
Yeah.
the training that they go through, which is a big part of the B-roll. I feel like making
Yeah.
Brad Pitt and Damson Idris train. And Jurassic Park was as awful as I expected. And I want my 2 hours back. But looking forward to Fantastic Four and perhaps squeeze Eddington in later this week.
Yeah, I've got Fantastic Four tickets this Saturday, and then my most anticipated movie of the summer comes out next weekend, which is Weapons, which is
Oh yeah, Weapons.
yeah, absolutely Zach Cregwell's new movie. He's a director of Barbarian. If you saw Barbarian, great smash horror hit a few years ago, and I think Weapons just looks absolutely bonkers. My prediction is it's going to be not only the best movie from the summer, but a kind of surprise smash hit, because I think word of mouth is going to carry on this one pretty quickly, and everybody's going to be like, you have to go see Weapons. It is that nuts.
I saw a clip with Julia Gardner,
Yes,
Josh Brolin,
that's
and
right.
that came out, and I have no idea what's happening. I didn't know the concept going into it, and I don't
Yes.
need to know. And I'm gonna go in blind like I like to do with these sorts of projects.
And that's how it should be. These days, they give you the whole movie in the trailer, and by the time you get there, you feel like you just watched everything already in the 3-minute trailer. Whereas this one, they are purposely keeping a secret. That's a throwback to how we used to be as a proper society before a trailer showed you everything in a movie, because they were nervous that you weren't going to show up to see it.
Exactly, you're right about that. You enjoying the Freddie Gibbs Alfredo 2 project and Freddie Gibbs and Alchemist, and then Tyler the
Absolutely.
Creator dropping a surprise project as well.
We
Got some heat.
We got good hip hop this summer. Appreciate that. Freddie Gibbs, Alfredo, they came out with their second album together. Absolutely outstanding project. You talked about Tyler. I love the second half of that album, significantly more than the first half, but I still think it was a good album. Yep, still bumping clips, of course. Raekwon snuck in an album in there as well that I like a lot, from Wu-Tang fame. So we got some good hip hop this summer. I appreciate that. Complete pivot though, next Friday at Salt Shed, if you're around, there is a Yacht Rock review concert, and I am all in on going to a Yacht Rock concert at Salt Shed. That is the millennial in me saying, let's go.
I love me some Fairgrounds at the Salt Shed, and I have not been to a summer concert there, and that sounds great. I do love me some Yacht Rock. Remember We talked about that Yacht Rock documentary that came out, and Toto and everybody in Hall Notes and all.
Ambrosia, yeah.
Oh, some bangers in there.
Michael McDonald.
Peak summer. Oh, Michael McDonald. Hopefully Thundercat comes out,
Yes.
To that end, Ross, it's almost August. And anything left on your, summer bucket list that you haven't checked off yet? I haven't worn enough tank tops this summer in this heat.
I haven't. I actually have not been down to the Riverwalk yet this summer. I've been kind of walked past it. There's a bunch of cool new bars and stuff. So I think me and the missus we'll do that on Saturday evening. The weather looks significantly less humid and more chill this weekend into the mid 70s. So I say there's going to be a lot of beautiful people in town this weekend. We've got tomorrow. There's a Manchester United game at Soldier Field. And then, of course, this weekend, we've got Lollapalooza in town. We've got Bears Fest, Family Fest this Sunday. So, bucket list, enjoy the city. This is the best summertime city in the world. And, thanks to global warming, it extends usually into September or even October at this point.
But nice days in September.
Yeah, go out there in August and take advantage of the city and hit a rooftop and hit a couple breweries and some cool restaurants and the Riverwalk and the beach and things like that. And go visit your neighborhoods as well. Don't just stick to downtown. Go to Pilsen, go to Jefferson Park, and go to Logan Square. I was at Wicker Park Fest this past weekend. A lot of great people out as well. So go to Hyde Park as well. Go to all your neighborhoods in the city. Go support the local businesses there as well.
You're hitting all the fest, Ross. Summer Ross.
Yes, sir.
Me and the wife will hitting the Lollapalooza after show. That'll be probably too late for us on Saturday, but prior to that, we'll be hanging around Logan Square, which I'm pumped about.
Nice.
So, summer rolls on, and we roll on here on Mac and Reed, but we're out of time today. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening in on YouTube. Remember to like, subscribe, tell a friend or two. Subscribe to the channel at Second City Gridiron for all the Bears news as training camp goes on into August. Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your media. Look up the articles that are going to be coming out. Windy City Gridiron at WC Gridiron on social media. I'm at the Real Evan Mac on Twitter and everything, and Ross is at Ross Reed. For now, everybody, enjoy the rest of your week. Go Bears. Be good to each other, most importantly, and we will talk to you soon. So long, everybody.